I'm going to add you, Juan, on the calls recorders. So yeah, so we know you recorded that one.
Yes, I just started.
Wow, I just ate an ice cream and I'm freezing now. Winter is coming to Latin America. Are you guys in Colombia always just enjoying the heat? There's no winter there.
No, up in the coast, it either rains or it doesn't. That's it.
But it's very hot.
Um, okay, so I put the agenda in there in Softgov. Hi, Santi.
Hello.
And we can start. I'm gonna share. So the intro for today, and we can try to keep it in like a minute each, is what learnings did you have from the MVV process? And if you didn't participate or you didn't feel like any learnings in there, please share something you learned from your week. Now pass to Nate.
Yeah, I actually did not participate in the MVV process, and that was a choice. But I did learn a lot from it, just from the perspective of knowing the community and the need for transparency and openness in terms of defining such an important document. Establishing mission, vision, and values is very, very important. The mission itself, one of the reasons I did not participate was because I don't feel like I have enough input on the vision of what I would like to see the TEC become. I think that a lot of more people are more informed in that manner, and I delegate that decision to them. But I do find it to be a very, very important process that we're going through, and I think it should be iterated upon in the future for future commons and revisited over the TEC over time. And I think it's really valuable to have that openness and transparency, even though we have gone through that aspect of governance theater comments, which is something to reflect on as well. So outside of that, yeah, I think it's been pretty great, and I've learned a lot from it. So I'll pass it to Wonka.
Thanks, Nate. Um, well, I think it's super valuable just to make an effort to be that transparent, and it has like served so that the three proposals that are in the runoff are like better than the initial ones version of themselves. So it's like really good to incorporate feedback and to polish and to review these documents and to do it in a very open way. I think it's great. I will pass to Mateo.
So I didn't participate in the MVV because I was feeling like crap last week, so I don't have much to share about that. But Livy asked if we had the time to learn about something else, and for me it was I took the time to continue the CatCat bootcamp course, which is really cool. So that's what I would say I learned from last week. That was really nice to do. I'll pass it to Anna Marie.
I didn't participate in the MVV. I'm just really learning what that is. Yeah, I'm not sure what I've learned this week. I think mostly my learning this week is very personal in that at times I forget that the intensity of the time that we're going through, and I get on with my normal life, and then some days it just hits me like it's an incredibly tough time to live in at the moment, and just to be gentle and kind of kind with ourselves with that. That's my learning, I think, this week. Who can I see? Mark? Mark?
Marco, I think should pass to you.
Oh, hey, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So the question we're going through is, what learning did you have from the MVV process? And if you didn't participate, to share something you learned from your week.
I'm not sure what I learned. Oh, yeah, I participated. I'm not sure what I learned from the process. I haven't given it a thought actually before. I just just maybe my experience was good. That we kind of, created this experiment, and it was, and then, yeah, I don't know. I should definitely give it a little more thought. But it was great. It's definitely great. Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Just if you had anything you wanted to share. But yeah, it was a great experiment.
We had a bug, and and everybody was like, "Oh my God, what's happening?" And it was kind of shocking at first, but yeah. Other than that, I think for me it was great actually to read all the proposals, and to see how other people are seeing that, and looking at the mission and the vision and all the values, and how we basically all align. At the end, we align and then come to that one thing, and that's what excites me about this process. Yeah, and that's all. And I'm not sure who I need to pass on, so I back to you, Libby.
Thank you. I'll pass to Katie.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I participated as much as I could, which means I did submit one. I submitted a mission, vision, and values. I didn't vote because I'm still my process of the trusted seed isn't complete right now. So I was bummed about that because I was very excited to participate. And I have to say that for me, as still a new community member, I did it because I knew I would learn a lot. And I spent a lot of time basically researching what everyone who is part of founding this group was saying. I went through all the notes and all that stuff and read all the missions, and beyond that, went to the note boards and was just trying to learn as much as I could. So it was for me to formulate a mission, vision, and values. So it was a real huge learning experience to really help me understand what the dynamics are of the group. So it was super beneficial to me. And then there's another facet to it, how I observed the process. And that's been interesting too, and a learning experience too. And yeah, I have a lot of questions and thoughts on that too. So it was a great experience. Yeah, I'd like to pass to Septimus. I think didn't go yet.
Yeah, thank you, Kitty. Yeah, for me, get more used to the tools. That's something I learned. And the one thing that I really like it is even if we had money MVVs, like all of them were on the same line. So I feel like we're doing good job communicating like our missions, values, and mission, vision, and values. Yeah, and yeah, that's me. I'll pass it to Griff.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, what did you learn in the process of the MVV or any other learnings you had during the week?
Content is really hard. Like, you can't just, it's never done, and it's really hard to get things short and concise and well worded. It just takes a lot of work, and it's one of these things that you just need a deadline to work towards and then call it done, and because it's amazing how much more improved the three that are up there are and how diverse they are now. At the beginning, everyone kind of started from the same base and they changed some things, but like a lot of it was the same. Now we have three very different and distinct things that were not voted on before, basically, because they're all so different. So, but it's because everyone kind of just wrote the first MVVs and was like, maybe put an hour or two behind it, maybe 3, right? And now these ones have been iterated, much more informed, and are very different. And so I think the way we predicted the process would go wasn't how it went, but it worked out really well. And I'm excited to see how the community responds to these 3 distinct choices. And I'll let Livia pass it for me.
I'll pass to Tam.
So there's a few things, and I'll try to be quick. I'd say first, I really think this process indicates that collective intelligence is the highest form of intelligence. Like the more feedback that's solicited, the more people that have their eyes on it and have their input, the stronger and stronger and stronger it becomes. And it felt like, in the beginning, it was like this tiny little snowball, and that, as it was going down the hill, it was getting more and more momentum and more like collective energy from everyone. And I think that I think that the 3 that we ended up with are really something that we should be proud of. And then the other thing I learned is that asking people to submit is a big ask. It's really hard. It's really hard to do. It's really hard for community members because it takes so much time to understand the problem space and then to design a solution to fit that. And so I keep thinking, we're asking for a lot if we ask for that, and maybe how can we facilitate that to make it easier for people in our community to vote on things and to submit proposals. And then the last thing is that, like what Griff said, content is hard. I was just saying, I personally could have spent 2 more months, refining and revising. And, there's this old joke where, a writer goes to his publisher and he's just like, yeah, I'm sorry, I would have made it shorter, but I ran out of time. Because it's all in the editing and refining and the bringing it tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter until the fewest amount of words have the biggest emotive reaction, and yeah. So I learned a lot, and I thought it was a really great process too. And I will pass to Mateo. Did you go? Oh, I'll pass to you, Livia, then.
Dan, I think you're the last one before me.
Still haven't gotten it.
Oh, hey. Dan or Dan?
Dan. And then after Santi. Sorry.
Okay. Well, go, Santi.
Thank you, Ben. I think the whole process is a great learning process. First is using tokenlog, pushing people to experiment with it, then creating a proposal, which was hard, but merging it or forking it from an existing one and testing everything from GitHub, editing, that was great. Going through the problem that we went through, which was wasn't the best, but it was good to experience that right now instead of experiencing in the future, because we were able to fix it and reset everything from scratch. But I think the lessons learned is that it's not easy, and we need probably to communicate better, to train better the people to use the tool. It's a great tool, but we need everyone to be able to use it, feel comfortable with it, and to be able to just use it in the future for Params or for any other internal voting that we may need. And I'll pass it to Dan now.
Oh yeah, I had not much to say. I was just gardening with the trusted seed. Katie, if you need anything, reach out, please. And now I am cooking. So this is my cooking call. But yes, anyway, I jumped into the process at the very start and didn't so much to vote on, and I didn't have the bandwidth to put something there by myself. So I was like, But then I kept coming back and seeing the iterations, and that was exciting. And jumping in some calls with people coming into the trusted seat, and one of them reminded me, like, this is the last day to vote. That was cool for me. I mean, like the awareness, the community, and from people coming into the trusted seat, common stack, that going to the TEC, that was fun. And just as well as just looking at the iterations. But particularly, I personally wish I had more bandwidth for something like this. It feels like so super important that I shied away from the whole process just because of that. Like I felt like I needed like a spiritual retreat just to think about these things, like go back inside myself and go back into the world and then come with something meaningful. And before that, just studying a lot. So I shied away from the process. I did vote it, but I wish I had way more time to jump on that. So it's tricky just to handle that. And it has made me think about some AI-powered tools, but AI power, where is the human part in that? Anyway, it's very complex, but I think it turned out very beautiful. So I'm very looking forward to see what emerges from it. So I'll pass it back to Libby.
Thanks. Yeah, my insights were similar to something Griff and Tim mentioned too, of how refining something is the real work, and how like it takes so much time to have concise information. And that's something I've been looking from in other projects too. And I shared the other day the Proof of Humanity DAO, and how their message was so short and saying so much at once. And this inspired me a lot. And I think there is a great work in making TLDRs of everything. Yeah, and overall, I think it was a really great process. Like once you understand how much time it takes to time and understanding and like willingness to participate, it made me very, very grateful that like this many people participated. That even the people that just voted, because we had 10 submissions and 18 votes, so we don't know if everyone who submitted voted, or if the total was 18 or a little bit more than 18 people actively participating. It's still like, it's pretty cool to see that the time and engagement even to read the proposals and choose what was your favorite one. Cool, so we can announce the top 3 submissions that Juan proposed today. We did this so there's no bias of ownership. So we don't know who has submitted the 3 or who authored each one of them. So we can take a look. Thank you, Juan, for submitting. And does anyone wants to volunteer to read the first one? MVV number 14.
I can read it. What is the vision of the token engineering company? We envision a world where sustainable and ethical standards are an inseparable part of crypto economic systems, engineering, and the tools, research, and education necessary to achieve this goal. Okay, I totally screwed up the framing of that, but that's okay. Let's see, are an inseparable part of crypto economic systems engineering, and the tools, research, and education necessary to achieve this goal have far-reaching impact and continuous funding. What is the mission? To mobilize the community build of ethical, technical, and cultural foundation for Web3 engineered system. What are the core values? Be kind, promote open source thinking, embrace diversity and inclusion, encourage mutual accountability, and operate with.
Thanks. Do you want to pick someone to read the next one?
Ooh, I like it. I want to hear Anna Marie Swan read one.
Okay. So what is the vision? To be the nucleus for token engineering, research, development, and education. The Commons will support ethical, robust, and resilient practices of token engineering for the benefit of humanity. What is the mission? Steward efficient collection and distribution of funds to token engineering projects. Beyond financial incentives, the Token Engineering Commons fosters a nourishing environment for collaboration and value creation. What are the core values? Token Engineering Commons acknowledges the social importance of economic systems. It places trust, constructive inquiry, and gratitude as foundations for a healthy and active community. Members are encouraged to be radically open source, non-hierarchical, transparent, and mutually accountable. Commons will strive to support token engineering projects that appreciate the value of safe, ethical, diverse, and inclusive economic systems. Very cool. Do you want me to
Your
pick
voice is so
someone?
beautiful. Yeah, you should pick someone.
I am going to go for, let's hear, go for Septimus.
Do you hear me, guys? I'm on the phone.
Sure. In that case, we'll go for Nate.
I'm sorry, my volume went out there for a second. What is the question?
Just to read the third submission.
Yep. Give me 1 second. Sorry. The Token Engineering Commons will support the discovery, development, and proliferation of best practices for engineering safe tokenized economies. Providing these public goods will enable a Cambrian explosion of ethical, inclusive, safe, resilient, and diverse economic systems for the benefits of societies around the globe. The mission of the Token Engineering Commons, our goal is to become a Schelling point for token engineering community. Our foundational economic layer will fund projects that advance token engineering while also aligning our collective success with the individual benefit of our token holders. The social layer that emerges is even more important, and it will serve to unite the token engineering field around ethical principles, standards, tools, and the many other matters that emerge as this nascent field of research advances. The values, our Commons operates from a pro-social, human-centered perspective. Integrity, curiosity, constructive inquiry, presence, and gratitude are foundational for maintaining mutual respect for our growing community. We encourage our members to be radically open source, non-hierarchical, transparent in their intentions, and accountable for their actions. We prioritize the long-term advancement of token engineering over short-term member profits, because through proper economic design, if we succeed collectively, we will also benefit individually at longer time scales.
Awesome. So now everyone can go and vote and also help us promote this voting. So this is going until next Tuesday, the 27th, and we're gonna announce the winner in the end of the Softgov call. And then a few questions related to this process is, do we want to, Juan had suggested that we have points of what is similar and what is different from each proposal. If anyone thinks it's a good idea, we can write that in the comments of the issues to help people make a decision. But I don't know if that could make it biased somehow. So just if anyone has thoughts around this.
Maybe a forum post is a better place. Like, I feel like the GitHub is a great place for comments on that specific one, but for comparing the three, it'd be nice to have it in a place where there isn't one that's right above it, you know?
True. Juan, since you suggested, would you like to do that?
But I was thinking like highlighting like keywords on each document. If yeah, I can do so. Highlighting the keywords that have like similarities and also the differences between each one. Maybe I can have like green color for similarities and like orange color for like differences, and I will just highlight some words.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't know if you can do that in the forum though.
Mm-hmm.
Can you? Or maybe even in a document and then posting the document in the forum.
Yeah.
Or taking a print screen.
Or putting it in like italic or bold, like yeah, making a type change.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, great. So this is, and then the second question was, should we have the top two winners write the final statement together? Because now they are a little bit more, they're a little different. As before, like Griff mentioned, they were like more coming from the same source. And then one thing we posted in the forum was that if we had a very divergent result in terms of like split votes into one or another, into different proposals, that we would invite the two to get together and create a third one that wouldn't be voted anymore. It would just be the final one. So I was thinking like it got a little ambiguous in the way we put this in the forum. So it could have been that this was valid for the first run, and since we didn't have divergent decision making, neither divergent proposals, that we just move forward with this, and now the final result is the final result. Or should we still like combine them? Does anyone has thoughts?
Maybe I think that yeah, the second place can like make suggestions to the first place, but like the winner should have like respect for winning in the vote.
So I may kind of once again differ on this in my opinion, but I think the goal of this is try to capture, like within the voting, is to capture kind of the elements that exist within the MVVs individually that are absent in the other proposal, and so by collaborating we may lose or gain new things, or so I think if it's going to be two people, I think it should be a larger group of people. Maybe the people who voted on it, if they are invited, they can say, hey, this is what I liked about these two things. These are the aspects and the ideals behind these and the reason I voted for them. And maybe have a consolidated MVV after that. But I think if you just do the two, I think you lose some of the you may lose some of the aspects that and reasons why people voted in the first place.
I really like that that thought. The hack session just be happening in the public and be scheduled if it happens. I'm just reading the current blog post, and it says, what if there is a polarized scenario where 2 to 3 different proposals have an evenly split majority of votes in the runoff? So I think it was very specific about the runoff. And I also think it's really important for us to stick to a decision-making process at the beginning and not change it halfway through. So if honestly, the decision-making process is whatever it is, and it's not nearly as important as the trust of like, if there's a process for the decision to happen, we either need to change the process in advance, or we stick with it and we get what we get. I think it's more important that we end up with the mission, vision, values than exactly what they are. That's the best ever. And there will be another chance to edit them at the when we have the covenant and we do the commons upgrade. There'll be like the Celeste rules that like everybody signs on to. And I imagine that we would have them MVV there. So it'd be like another opportunity to revisit.
That's a good point that it talked about the runoff that passed. I didn't pay attention on that. I wrote that and I didn't pay attention on it. So you mean that if we have the vote split, we just open this process for people to give feedback, and then we have a final statement.
Yeah, it just says, because it says the top 2 or 3 authors will be invited to a hack session to merge their proposals together. It doesn't say that will be a closed hack session.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds good.
I wonder if it's going to be changed. Like, I know it's not in the rules, but for example, let's say like Livy's proposal wins, and then she's doing editing beyond that she already wrote it. I feel like the community should vote again and have like a minimum quorum of 80%. I mean, yeah, maybe it's too much, but some minimum quorum, like so the community is happy with the new edits, because otherwise, I mean, she could just change everything. Yeah, just one thought.
I think we have to remember we're not in an adversarial, and a lot of the like crypto stuff is always expecting that there's a whole bunch of people who are like trying to scam something, and it's like, I think it's a different scenario. We don't really have to worry about any of these authors just saying, actually, you know what? The mission is to make me a bunch of money. I don't think that's gonna happen. There's like what do you call that? Assuming positive intent. I think it's fair for us to assume positive intent.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, but I hear Zeptimus' point of like, I think this final result shouldn't be so different from whatever is chosen if the votes are split and if there is a divergent decision. Okay, we can talk more about that in the following days that this voting session will develop. Yeah?
If the votes do start to look like they're split, we should probably start asking people what they love the most about each proposal. And like, if it's clear, oh no, the vision over here nailed it, but the mission over here is just like the bomb, you know? And it's like, oh, okay, well, that's easy. We just pick the pieces and we combine the values, and then, you know.
Yeah,
But,
that's a great idea.
We only have to do this if there isn't a runaway majority.
I want to ask a question about like giving voting guidance. Is the best idea to vote for one, or to split your votes across two, or to split your votes across three?
I would say it doesn't make sense to vote for three. It probably makes sense to vote for two. Or one. Two or one.
I think also this is debatable because, and this is something of tokenlog that I feel like it's still, maybe we have to talk more about it, because everyone has so many votes that what is the strategy that people are using? Like, is anyone voting with all their votes, or people are using just a little bit and splitting kind of evenly, or like or just voting for one or for three, and this is so hard to have a real grasp of what people are doing. It's kind of like anonymous and this is a tricky one where I feel like maybe the tool could improve somehow.
So I had some thoughts on this, and I see it a lot within DAOs in general, in the sense that, you know, right now we're using quadratic voting, which is really great. I love quadratic voting. I think it's really awesome and it works really well. However, I do think other forms of voting would be good for this particular type of decision. Things like dot voting or whatever it may be, some form of approval voting, where you have multiple proposals that you're voting on and you can kind of show which ones you have preferences for. But I think for this one, I think most people are just putting them all on what they like, or a portion of on what they like, and the rest of them are kind of, if they're separated from mission, vision, and values separate, rather than one MVV proposal, I think we'd have different results. But I think the way we approach the voting process is different for each type of decision we're trying to make. And I think we should kind of evaluate into the future, like how we approach those decisions and what type of voting we utilize.
Yeah, I will say that I think the MVV was sort of, this process was sort of like, I don't know what, just smashed into this voting strategy almost as a beta test for the hatch parameters, and which is a beta test for the commons upgrade, right? So it was kind of I would agree that this isn't the ideal way of deciding mission, vision, values. Well, I don't think it was horrible, and I think we ended up with really good results and kind of like focused energy at MVV from like lots of directions, which is cool. But probably, like Livia was saying, like there's a lot of ways that even if we want to do quadratic voting, what if you could just put in like, I want to give this one 25%, this one 70%, and this one 5%, right? And then just voted for you, opposed to like, then you're like, you know what, that's just enough clicks. And walk away.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah, and I think there's something you said too the other day, Griff, that having a cohesive MVV is something interesting too. Because we did debate this initially of like having it split or not, and the exercise of thinking and the three of them. Maybe this is something I can add to the learnings of MVV. Like for me, writing the three of them made me actually think, what does each one mean? Like it made me research deeper into what is even the vision? What is the vision used for? Like, and I was seeing some people saying that the vision can even be utopian in some cases, because it's this like, what is the direction we want to bring people in? And then having that written with the mission, it's like, oh, where do I yeah, I think I'm rambling, but I think it does organize in a nice way when it's a whole too. Cool. So next point that I think we're kind of talking already about is Params and Softgov. So how can Softgov support on the Params run, and how do we, like, we raised a bunch of points that came as a learning from the MVV. How are we thinking them with the Params? Do we want to have a session with Wesley to investigate the possibilities of the tool? What do we want to do, and how can we shape that voting session too?
Wow, yeah. I mean, I'd be curious about booking a time with Wesley and giving him feedback of our voting experience. That seems really reasonable. Getting him to push some updates on how to vote. I mean, it might be easier even just to make issues in his GitHub and then schedule a time with him to like go over them and collecting issues that we thought it could improve. I feel like that's the number one way to support Params from this experience for sure. Is just improving the tool. Like, it'd be great if you could remove your votes, right? Like, that's why it doesn't make sense necessarily to do the like 67% here, 3% there, 30% there, because then you can't change it when someone adds a new one. It only makes sense in the runoff right now, you know? So I think there's a lot of like discussion that could be had about different features and different options and thoughts. So I think just exploring that more. But I'd be curious if anyone else has any other directions that this taking MVV and then taking this experience and how it could improve, we could improve it for the next round and the next round.
Maybe it would be good for the proposers to have like a session to share their parameters. Like I liked the exercise we did today, reading the proposals, and it would be good for people to say like, hey, this is what I think, and this is why I think this.
That's a great idea, right? Giving people who want to present, hey, vote for me, you know, having the like, having like debates, right? Or some sort of like, what do we do with politics when people are like, hey, vote for me, you know, vote for my parameters, you know? How do we give people a platform? That would be fun.
That would be really fun. I would love to see that. Can I ask if anybody has like any of the learnings that you had or anything that you saw with the tool or any questions? If you want to be one of the people to submit an issue to Wesley, I'll also submit a few. But if there's anyone here that like, I don't know, say something, and then I can coordinate and we can all send to the same repo and tag him and book a session.
I feel a little bit unclear in my head, but I want to say yes. I probably have something I could add. I don't know what it is right now. I have to formulate it, but you can add me to that.
Awesome.
There are a lot of interesting issues here already. In fact, Dan Finlay, who is quite the token engineer, seems to have opened a bunch last year. So that might be interesting to read some of the issues that are already in there too.
Where are they?
I can give the link to the GitHub. I'll put Softgov. And praise to YGG for already making an issue.
Nice.
And Jake.
Okay, so this is where we should be dropping issues.
Mm-hmm. And apparently there's a V1 that he has working, which also he's got one issue that's like create an actual design in UI. So that's fun.
Yeah, he needs help with that. Okay. Okay, so let's continue the conversation, and if anyone has questions or if something pops up about tokenlog and about the voting experience, how it was, and even now that everyone will be voting, maybe some other things will come up. Try thinking about the parameters, how they will work, and anything that emerges, we can talk to Wesley and post issues, and anyone can reach out anytime we can talk about this. And then the last thing, we have just 12 minutes, but I wanted to start bringing this up because it's something we talked about a lot in the past, but I think it wasn't the right moment for it. And Tam resurfaced it. And I think now it's a very important time, like a very needed time to be opening this conversation again of how is the holistic overview of our reward system. So how are people getting paid for the work they're doing, rewarded for the work they're doing? Post-hatch, that things will be a little bit different. So I share here a few stepping points that we can start working with. And I linked this issue there because we can coordinate in here. I think it's going to be easier. So research other communities, how they do it. How does OneHive, Metagame, Prime DAO, I don't know, all of the DAOs that we have in our ecosystem that we are a part of, that we've been playing with, what is their status on rewards and what can we learn from them? And then discussing the pros and cons of each point. And I posted a few of them here, but if you have other suggestions or other points that we could use, please feel free to add it or to comment on this issue. So using only praise and source cred, using only source cred, not having praise and source cred anymore if consensus isn't achieved, that we would use them. Having a plan for how to request funds for praise and source cred in case we do use them. Maybe some working groups will make proposals for reward straight to the DAO, and some will only use praise and source cred. Maybe we'll have like all of them doing something, all of them doing something else, or a mix of everything. And what are the other possibilities? And then writing about the options in the forum so we can make informed decisions. They don't need to be decisions right now, but we'll make them in the future. So at least we'll start gathering this information there. I'll pass around for a quick round of thoughts on this, and then we can close the call and then continue to coordinate the issue. And I'll pass to Santi.
Thank you, Livy. My personal view is that we should start with something that we are already familiar with, and that's the most familiar thing is praise, and the second one, although we haven't implemented it yet, is SourceCred. But I wouldn't close the door to any other change or future introduction. I mean, it doesn't have any sense to close the door. We don't know how everything is going to evolve. We don't know if we're going to feel comfortable with any of those in the future. So far, it's been fine, but we haven't really touched money yet. So it's going to be a completely different story when the hatch is, when the DAO, the final DAO is up and running. And we need to experiment, and everyone needs to feel comfortable with any system that we're implementing. So I would start with, from my personal perspective, both of them, and leave the door open for improvement, for changes, for new introductions. And I'll pass it to Nate.
Okay.
Go ahead, Griff.
Okay. I want to say the Common Swarm gets paid, and many stewards get paid through the Common Stack. So there are other ways of funding, and generally they have been from external sources, almost like applying for grants, right? Like Common Stack pays people, and then the best model a real model that we have that is almost exactly what we're gonna end up with is the Common Swarm. Common Swarm created a proposal to conviction voting, got funded, and then they have a DAO, or we have a DAO that ends up paying every week, pays people out based off of hours. And when they submit their hours, they also do it in dishing praise. So they'll actually say, ! dish praise to myself for 3 hours of work doing this. So they get praise and they get paid for those 3 hours at an hourly rate. So at least there's that as an example, as a model that we could use for when we want to actually propose for more complex projects. And I'll pass it to Nate.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both Griff and Santi and their sentiments towards it. Keep with the plans that we have in place right now, but stay open to new possibilities and new ways of doing things. I really, 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 really like the praise system, just for its connection to intrinsic motivation. And I'm very interested in reading all the case study from Asia from that. So it'll be interesting, but I do think, as time goes on, we will see innovations within the DAO space in general that will relate to this. And I think that, as long as we're keeping an open mind and we don't, set anything into, stone as far as compensating people who contribute to the advancement of token engineering and through the Common Swarm, I think it'd be a really good option. So outside of that, I don't have many thoughts. I think it's a very interesting topic that I think we will continue to build on as it evolves. So I'll pass to Marco.
Thanks, Nate. I just want to second everything that Santi said, and you, Nate, as well. Praise. I really like the praise thing, and I think this should be number one thing. Source cred. We should also consider how we're gonna adjust those parameters and how we're gonna track and what we're gonna be tracking. And there are a bunch of issues that source cred has for actually tracking the work and allocating those creds to contributors. And then we should definitely really, really carefully think about how we're gonna do that. And just want to add one more thing in my experience what I have with Panvala Fellows. And Panvala Fellows is a small group of people who work on all kind of stuff to move Panvala forward. And one of the things that we have is what we do. We have like this kind of a bucket of funds that we basically every 2 weeks we just take out money from that wallet of how much work we've done, and there's an Excel sheet, and we just add like the hours that we worked, and one person just keeps track of that and distributes the funds every 2 weeks. It was an experiment, and it kind of worked. Maybe it worked with a smaller group of people, but definitely something also to consider. Yeah. I pass it on. I don't know who's not gone yet. Tam, you want to go? If you're here.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting, it's just a really interesting question. And I have a bias maybe for continuing as it is. But then on the other hand, there are so many innovations and like, Superfluid with their streaming, like I just think there's so much to explore, and that it probably is going to be very interesting as we learn how like the model that Marco just explained and other models, and then we can sort of
I don't hear Tam. Is it just me?
This happens
we
sometimes,
hear that.
Katie, that you just need to re-download. I mean, leave and come back to the call room.
Okay, sorry. I saw Anna Maria taking out her headphones too. I thought maybe there was a bigger problem. Thanks.
No problem.
I think it's going to be very interesting to dig into it and to look at existing models and to look at experimental models, and then come to have a discussion around what works best for the TEC. So I actually really look forward to it, but I have no opinion until I've looked at what the options are and the impact of those options. And I'll pass to Katie. Oh, Katie.
I'm there, but I'm sorry. I'm a bit useless because I didn't hear, and that's okay. So I'll just I'll pass to Juan Carlos.
Thank you, Katie. Well, I think that one of the best things of praise is not only like the distribution of impact hours, but also it somehow like distributes recognition and makes like everyone can see what the others are doing, and through the like reading praises. So yeah, I like a lot praises, and maybe it would be good to get to know more about the strategy of Common Swarm, because that's like the long-term idea that I have for Gravity, but I still like don't know the step-by-step process of how is it going to be like applied. And I will pass to Mateo.
We are on the top of the hour, so who needs to go, please go, and thank you so much for coming. And we'll finish the round and finish the call. And if anyone has something else to add, please add to the agenda or the issue. Thank you. Mateo, do you want to go ahead? If you have to leave it. Okay.
No, sorry. I think what I have to say goes really well with what Santi was mentioning about experimenting and what we have already with Praise and Software. And I believe that the middle point, or maybe the merge between those two tools, would bring us really cool innovations to us. For example, the innovation initiatives feature that the Software team is working on is really interesting, because you could set like for a task or for let's say a task, you could assign a certain weight, a certain value to the source code graph. And if it's completed, you can assign, they call them a champion, but it's in reality responsible for the task. So a particular task could have a weight impact in the source code, but it's added manually, which is kind of how the phrase is working right now, because everything is manually added, and someone has to type it in and check. You have to give weight to every phrase that is being happened. So I think that there is still a lot of work to do, and source code and phrase may in the future have like an intersection between their advantages to us to distribute value. And then I'll pass it to okay.
Thank you, Mateo. I have different thoughts. Like one of them, it's like I really want to keep the praise because it's amazing. We all know. But what about like the work like it's being done for the TC? We just keep using praise and source code and not that much using the funding pool for the working groups and use more the funding pools for the proposals. This is my thought. Yeah, I just want if people think about it, and I'll pass it to Chris.
Quick clarification, you said you want to use the fund, you want to see the funding used more for working groups or or only for proposals?
No, for proposals. And then the working group, because if we do like the other way, maybe it would be like, I feel it's too much. Then you would have to quantify the price and see all the members on the working groups doing half of the price. And I feel, I really like how we are going now. And using the funding pools for the proposals, that's what I think.
And Anna, I think you're the last one.
Sure. So firstly, I mean, obviously I don't really know the systems here that well that you currently have, and I'm sure you've got particular reasons for those choices. But one thing that I can see the simplicity of putting things into hours because that's very easily kind of manageable from an admin end. I struggle a little bit sometimes with hours because sometimes I think that the value and impact is hard to measure in hours. So sometimes it feels with hours to me that we're kind of recreating the systems that we already have, which is kind of where how much time you put in is how much of the work that you're giving. And my feeling is that it feels a bit more nuanced than that in reality. But I can see how that can make things a little bit more complicated if we're perhaps asking people to share what they think their value is, say. I think I've seen that work really well where people say, this week or this month, I believe, or I would like, this is the value that I've bought and that feels a fair return for that value. And then it's open to other people in the group to say, yes, I completely support that, or perhaps you could adjust it slightly because of these reasons.
And that's something close. Sorry, that's something close to the Panvala Fellow example that I gave. It's really something close to that. Basically, every 2 weeks or by the end of the month, you just go in there and say, this is how much I work. This is how much I value my work, and basically just get paid for that. If anything, looks awkward, someone's gonna raise a flag, obviously, but that never happened. so yeah, just wanted to add it. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I was going to add one more thing too, if I could, because I do think that both of them have their benefits or their trade-offs for each style and philosophy. If you take like Zeptimus's approach of like where, you know, you have the working groups that are funded and then you fund out the individual tasks within those working groups and value those tasks to follow kind of an organizational pursuit, I think it's really well in getting things done. However, it costs a lot of administrative overhead. There's a lot of monitoring that's required. And with like kind of the common swarm philosophy, you get rid of that overhead and it's more transparent, it's more open, it's more dialogue between community members. And so I think a mixed strategy going forward would probably be the best route at the moment until, you know, we figure out what the needs are for the TEC as a commons. Is because I think when you have the administrative approach where you have those working groups and stuff, you can get a lot done very quickly. Not to say that we're that type of commons where we're going to be aggressive and spending money like crazy just to get things done, but you know, it needs to be evaluated from both those philosophical perspectives.
Great. That was really helpful to have all this feedback. Please, if you have any more ideas, put in the agenda or in the issue and we can continue exploring this. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
See you later.
Bye.
See you, everyone.